Well, you've just begun reading about the increasingly dysfunctional, as you will see, Richardson family. And I have to wonder, as you're beginning this skill of reading the language, did you sound at all like this as you read? Mamá termina y compra la comida. Miguel no quiere salir del supermercado. Quiere jugar sobre el caballo. Mamá le dice, está bien, pero quiere volver a casa. Did you sound like that at all? Now, I'm betting that you did not. Hopefully you've had a little better model than that, and that you've understood a thing or two about the pronunciation of the Spanish language up to this point. But let me just emphasize as we begin today, probably the most important element, the most important thing to bear in mind as you're speaking the Spanish language that will enable you not to sound inauthentic when you speak the language, or at least may allow you to speak as authentically, with as respectable an accent as you possibly can. I hopefully recognize you've never heard me talking like that before, unless it was making fun of myself on another occasion. What is the key? What's the most important thing that you can do to avoid sounding like an American or an English-speaking person as you're speaking Spanish? The primary issue is the way in which you handle the vowel sound. Not so much the letter A, which is as you've come to know as you've done these exercises this week through lesson 2.5, I believe. But it's rather the letters E, I, O, and U. E, I, O, U. Those four vowels right there are handled with great difficulty by English-speaking people because, at least for us as Americans, we tend to create what's called a diphthong when we pronounce these vowel sounds. A diphthong is the changing of the shape of your mouth, and I say your mouth, it could be your lips, your teeth, your tongue, the elements of speech, in the midst of what in another language would be Spanish specifically, a single vowel sound. You're changing the shape of your mouth as you pronounce what in Spanish would be a single vowel sound. Okay? Now, I'm going to come back to this in a second. I do want to mention quickly two consonants, which are going to pose, well, actually, you might say three, which are going to pose difficulty for English-speaking people. First, and this is not a great challenge, this first one, but just something to be aware of. The letter D in Spanish is not pronounced D with an explosive D sound as it is in English. For example, we don't say dar. The R is another matter. But don't say dar. Yo doy un regalo a mi padre. But rather the D is pronounced with the tip of your tongue appearing between your teeth, as it said, just the tip. It's almost like a TH, but not that exaggerated. When we say the TH sound in English, like in with, quite a bit of our tongue is showing, isn't it? But to a Spanish-speaking person speaking their own language, the D sound is going to be the, or just a tip of my tongue is appearing between my teeth in order to soften the sound. So dar, not dar, but dar, or other words with D. That's you don't know that yet. Vivir, hacer, escuchar, did I just say one? No, lavar, decir, there you go. Decir, it's not decir, or decir, even worse. So bear that in mind. Soften the sound of the D by putting the tip of your tongue between your teeth and saying the, not quite a TH. Don't show that much of your tongue, just the tip of your tongue. Dar, decir. Okay. Secondly, you can hear at the end of decir that I'm making a sound with the R, which is far from the American English, the English or American D sound. Or I'm sorry, the R sound. The R we pronounce. This is not the case for people in Great Britain, but Americans, as you know, pronounce the R here in our throat. In fact, my baseball players in France, when I used to play and coach over there, would make a lot of fun of me when I was speaking English, because to them it sounded like so much of the language is spoken in our throat. but rather the Spanish R is pronounced by taking, again, the tip of your tongue, but this time instead of projecting between your teeth, you're going to hit the roof of your mouth with it, just behind the top row of teeth. So it sounds like this. The tip of your tongue hits the roof of your mouth just once. Okay, that's important because we're going to talk about a different consonant sound in a second where that occurs more than once. So, for example, the word for expensive, which is spelled C-A-R-O in Spanish, is caro. Caro. Hear the r? That's almost like in English D, isn't it? It almost sounds like I'm saying cado, cado, caro, caro. But rather than bring my teeth together, I'm taking the tip of my, like we do in D in English, I'm taking the tip of my tongue and hitting the roof of my mouth right behind my teeth just one time. Caro, caro. Now I use that example of caro because the third challenge as far as consonant sounds are concerned in Spanish is the double R. I say the double R, but there's also another situation where you're going to do what's called rolling the R, and that's when you have a single R, but in the initial position in a word, in the first position of a word, like in Roberto, or let me think of a good one. Ramon. There's another good name right there. Ramon. It's not Ramon or Roberto. With my tongue hitting the roof of my mouth a single time, it's Roberto or Ramon. What's happening when you have a double R or an R in the initial position of a word is you're fluttering the tip of your tongue against the roof of your mouth right behind the top row of teeth. I had a student once, by the way, you're going to tend to, it's going to be a challenge for you. It's not going to be easy. I think when we were little children, little boys especially playing with trucks probably, would be on the ground making the sound. We can make that kind of sound, of course. People like to say, I can't roll my R's. Well, yeah, you can. And once upon a time, in essence, you were doing that if you ever played with cars or trucks on the ground. But I remember one of my students, when I was teaching in high school in a classroom situation, she would sit in the front row, and she was a very, very disciplined, studious, but it's a very committed language learner. And one day as I was teaching, I heard quietly in the front of my classroom, kind of like a kitten purring in the front row. And I looked at the girl and I said, what are you doing? She said, I'm trying to practice rolling my R's. And you're going to have to practice too. Having the tip of your tongue flutter against the roof of your mouth. But it is critical to do. It's easier probably in the initial position of a sentence like Roberto or like Ramon than it is in the midst of a word. But in any case, it can be done. So I give you the example of caro with a single R, caro, where the tip of my tongue hits the roof of my mouth right behind my teeth a single time. Now I'm going to say the same word essentially, but with a double R, because that word, as you know, exists also. The word for automobile is carro. Now, hear what I just said there? How I said that? I fluttered the tip of my tongue against the roof of my mouth right behind my teeth. Carro. Carro. So, listen to the two different, almost the same word, but slightly different each time. The first meaning expensive, the second meaning car. Caro, that's a single R. Carro, that's a double R. You'll hear times in the Ulat when I will slip up. It's not natural for me, because I'm an English-speaking person, to make that sound either. And sometimes I have to go back and re-record my sound files because I didn't do the R properly. But nonetheless, that is the third situation with a consonant where you're going to have to focus on proper pronunciation. And so the three are the letter D, soften it, decir, not decir. Secondly, get the R out of your throat. I just said decir intentionally. And get it out of your throat and rather have it spoken in the front of your mouth as the tip of your tongue hits one time against the roof of your mouth right behind your teeth. Decir. That was the sound they just made. Decir. Okay? Dar, not dar. Decir. If you pronounce in that fashion, which is natural and easy for an English-speaking person, of course, you're going to sound like an American. You're not going to sound at all authentic. And it's going to be kind of grotesque for native Spanish-speaking people to hear you speak. And then the third of those examples was, of course, the double R. Carro. Okay? Or Roberto. Well, by the way, this is just a little plug for the approach that Ulat uses in teaching languages. Probably you're less susceptible to grotesque pronunciation than the vast majority of other Spanish-speaking students who use other programs, because right from the very first day, they're reading words in written form. And this is why I delay presenting until the second unit, the written language, because I do not want you to apply the English phonics system to the pronunciation of Spanish. Consequently, you're probably less likely to sound like Mamá termina y compra la comida. A person learning the Spanish language using a different program where they see the printed words immediately from the very first week of class invariably is going to apply the English phonics system to the pronunciation of those words before they know what they're really supposed to sound like. You already know what these words are supposed to sound like, and therefore you're less susceptible to the temptation of mispronouncing them. So just a little plug for the Ulat's approach. There is another negative, very negative consequence of being presented the written word from the very first week of class, and that is the issue of seeing printed text in your mind before you can speak, which slows down your ability to speak, or what really annuls your ability to speak in a fluent fashion. Okay, now I mentioned at the beginning of this video that the biggest issue, outside of those three consonants, consonant sounds, the biggest issue for that challenges English-speaking people when it comes to speaking Spanish with an authentic accent is the vowel sound. Here's just really a simple explanation as to what you need to try to do. When you speak in Spanish, and this applies to French, by the way, also. When you speak in Spanish, you need to respect the purity or integrity of the vowel sound. That is to say, you're going to, when I say the sound e in Spanish, watch my mouth. I'll first say it as though I'm an English-speaking person mispronouncing Spanish, and then I'll say it properly. I want you to watch the difference in what happens with my mouth as I say the same sound in English and in Spanish. A, for example, the month of May, or today. Spanish, e, which is why, by the way, a Spanish-speaking person just learning English might sound like me or today. You don't know exactly what I mean yet by that, but that is the distinction you hear both when an English-speaking person tries to speak Spanish and they say, let's go to a word, decir, a. English-speaking people say decir. Spanish-speaking people say decir. Now, what is the difference? I talk about respecting the integrity, the purity of the vowel sound in Spanish. What happens, hopefully you saw the difference, huh? A and e. Now, what is the difference? When you start pronouncing a vowel sound in Spanish, it is as though you set your jaw in concrete. You're going to do two things. You're going to cut short the duration of the vowel sound. You're going to chop it, clip it short. And secondly, once you start pronouncing that vowel sound, everything freezes. Nothing moves. Your teeth, your tongue, your lips, the shape of your mouth, etc., is going to stay in just one position. It's going to look like e. You saw nothing move, did you? E. An English-speaking person making that same sound says a. Notice how my jaw moves. I'm not sure if anything else does, but my jaw is the most pronounced thing that moves there. A. And so an English-speaking person, let me look at the text we're going to talk about in a few minutes here. He says, for example, for mamá le dice, an English-speaking person says, mamá le dice. Mamá le dice. And that's what causes us to sound so grotesque, is that we create what's called a diphthong. A diphthong is changing the shape of your mouth in the midst of a vowel sound. So as what would be a single vowel sound in Spanish, we're changing the shape of our mouth as we pronounce that sound, and it looks like a. Or with the letter O, it looks like O. Or with the letter I, it looks like E. Or for the letter U, oo, like moon, and the moon. Or let me go backwards, back to the O, like mow, I mow the lawn, O. Okay? Or what's an I here? E. I see. Get rid of the S, and it looks like this. E. When I'm an English-speaking person. To a Spanish-speaking person making that sound, it looks like E. Nothing moves. I chop the sound short, or I abbreviate the duration of the sound, and nothing moves. E. When in English we would say O, a Spanish-speaking person would say O. O. Nothing moves. When we say in English oo, like in moon, in a Spanish-speaking person making that sound would say O. 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 Nothing moves. Once I start pronouncing the vowel sound, nothing moves. And very important, as you'll see in a second, as we actually read some text together, if you have two vowels one next to another, or even a vowel sound right before a consonant, like in the word Miguel, the name of the boy in the story that you've been reading about, Miguel. Our tendency is to take that sound E, and before a consonant, we want to change it to E. It's much more comfortable for us to say E than to say, for example, L, than to say E, El. It takes more muscular tension to maintain that sound E when you move into a consonant than it does to make the sound E and slide into the same consonant. El, El. I live in Detroit, or I live near Detroit, not too far from, in the city of Michigan. And of course, I love sports, and I'm a beloved, I'm not beloved, I am a rabid follower of my beloved Detroit Tigers. And one of the great players that they've had for a number of years is the well-known Miguel Cabrera. Okay, and for years I've had to listen to the announcers on the radio say, Miguel Cabrera is now approaching the plate. Miguel, L. We say L because it's much easier to say the sound E sliding into L than it is to say the sound E sliding into the consonant L. Miguel, Miguel. And when you say his last name, you hear two grotesque errors. Cabrera. First of all, we got the R down their throat, right? Cabrera. It's Cabrera. Get the tip of your tongue hitting the roof of your mouth twice in that particular word. Cabrera. Secondly, when we say the E in Cabrera, it's much easier for an English-speaking person to say E. So Cabrera before a consonant sound. But no, you always, no matter where the vowel is in a Spanish word, whether it's before a consonant, before another vowel, no matter at the beginning of the word, at the end of the word, doesn't matter. Always respect its actual sound. It's Cabrera, Cabrera. It's always E. No matter where it is, no matter what letters after it, doesn't make any difference. The vowel sounds will not change as far as their value is concerned. If you can remember this, you will not sound like Mamá termina y compra la comida. Miguel no quiere salir. Okay? Well, let's take a look at this particular section, and this is in lesson 2.5, the first lengthy description of that portion of the Richardson story in section 2.5. Let's look at that together now, and let me hear you pronounce it, and then I'll talk about the places where you could easily slip up as you're pronouncing, as you're reading this text. Okay, look at it now. Read the first line. I won't say it. I want to hear you say it first. Go ahead. All right. Hopefully you did not sound like Mamá termina y compra la comida. Now, if I had started out Unit 1, Lessons 1 or 1.2 or 1.3 with this activity we're doing now, that is exactly what you would sound like. You would sound like Mamá termina y compra la comida, because you would have no idea how these words are supposed to be pronounced, and you would not have heard over and over and over again a model from me pronouncing the language to you. But hopefully you were quite successful. Now, where are the potential places you could slip up in this particular sentence? The letter A is probably not going to be mispronounced by an English-speaking person. There's not too much you can do to mangle that. So mama is not really a problem. But there is something to notice. Notice the accent mark on the last A. We're not writing yet. And so I'm not going to explain to you how accent marks are used, except to say, if you see an accent mark on a word, it'll be governing a particular syllable, a part of that word. Make sure your voice rises in intensity and pitch on that particular syllable. So instead of saying mama, you're going to say mama, mama. Okay? Even as I said that just now, mama, even then I could hear a difference in the way in which the ah is pronounced in English as well as in Spanish. Maybe you could too. Mama and mama. Notice how I abbreviate the duration. I chop short the duration of that vowel sound as I pronounce it. Okay. Obviously, the next word, a place you could make a mistake would be in saying tear, tear, because it's so much easier, like I've said, to say this on e, this letter right here, the letter e. It's so much easier before a consonant to say tear, termina. You got to always respect the actual sound of that letter. It's always in the beginning of a word, the end of a word, before an R, before an M, doesn't make any difference. The letter, for example, the word the, which you've said a zillion times, is el. It is also, it's also the word he, is it not? El. It is not L. It is very comfortable to say L for an English-speaking person, but it's grotesque for a Spanish-speaking person to hear that. It's el. E. The letter E is always E no matter where. All right? So, termina. The second obvious mistake in that very same section of that word is, of course, get the R out of your throat and pronounce the R with your tongue hitting the roof of your mouth right behind your teeth. Ter. Pronounce the language in the front of your mouth, not down in your throat. Termina. Okay? Let's move on a little bit. The next, the word for and right there. E. Not E. Mama termina E. It's E. Cut it short, and once you start saying E, don't let anything move as far as your mouth is concerned. Okay? Here's a great example. Comprar. If you say, it's not comprar, okay? Get those two R's out of your throat. It's comprar. Pronounce the language in the front of your mouth, comprar, okay? But obviously that vowel sound O, an English-speaking person is going to want to say co, like I mow the lawn, or I tie a bow, okay? It's O, nothing moves, nothing. Comprar, okay? Y compra, la, and once again, here this letter O again, the next word, comida. Notice when I said comida, I put my tongue between my teeth. I didn't say comida, I said comida. Okay? Mamá termina y compra la comida is so much more attractive than mamá termina y compra la comida. Fewer people are going to laugh at you, far fewer, if you say it the proper way. And you'll have more respect for yourself too, because you're putting out an effort. You're showing, by the way, you're showing respect for their language. When you try to sound as authentic as you can, you'll fall short. When I lived in France for 13 years, most people knew I was not a Frenchman. They tended to guess I was British, but you're never going to be perfect if you grew up in another country. But you can do all you possibly can to respect their language by seeking to replicate its sounds properly. Let's go through one more sentence together, and I think I'll have made my point. Okay? The next one, go ahead and read, starting with Miguel, like Miguel Cabrera, and read this next sentence right up to this last word here. Go ahead. Okay, hopefully you sounded like Miguel no quiere salir del supermercado. Okay? You didn't sound like Miguel no quiere salir del supermercado. All right, so let's talk about it. This is worthwhile mentioning here. For the Q as well as for the G followed by U, the U will be silent. The U only creates the G, hard G sound, as opposed to the H sound, which G makes, followed by an E or an I, for example. And so if you want to have an E after G, you put it in, but you want to keep the G sound hard, you're going to put a U, a silent U after the G to keep it hard. So it's Miguel. It's not Miguel, for example. All right, Miguel, here, simple word, isn't it? But you can still sound so much more authentic saying no, than no. All right. So Miguel, no. Now, I told you that the G followed by a U is going to be a hard G sound, but the U is not pronounced. Down here we have the Q and the U. The Q does not have any other pronunciation other than K. as you've already found in the lessons you've been doing. But the U after the Q has to be there. And it's silent. Okay, so it's quiere. Miguel no quiere salir. Now let's talk about the word quiere. Here you have the sound I. Here you have the sound E. Now, if you were an English-speaking person and you were told that this is, and you are an English-speaking person probably, and you were told that this word is actually a word of English, how would you pronounce it in English? Don't listen to my dog. She doesn't know anything. All right. You'd probably say kier. Kier. You take the I and the E and somehow you create I before E except after C. What's it do? When two vowels go walking, the first one does the talking, something like that. So you'd probably say kier. I don't know what you would say. Don't do that in Spanish. When you have a vowel next to another vowel, each of them, except for the silent U after G and Q, each of them is respected. That is to say, the sound that they make individually is the sound that they make in tandem when there are two of them. All right? And so you're going to say E, and you're also going to say E. E, E. Slow it down. E, E. Slowly speed it up. E, E. E, 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 E. So the I, E together in Spanish is going to make this sound ye. Ye. I guess that's called, what's that called? A blend or something like that? I don't know. I have no idea what it's called. But in any case, therefore, you're going to say, of course, this is this word right here, isn't it? Quiere, quiere, quiere. So remember, don't run two vowel sounds together into a single sound. Each of them is respected. Each of their values is respected. Say each sound, but of course you're going to say them, running them together quickly. You're going to say ye. You're not going to say e, e. All right. So quiere, quiere. Again, notice the r right there. We're saying r, not r. Get it out of your throat. Quiere. The front of your mouth is where you want that pronounced. Salir. Oh, here's a classic one. Del. It used to be maybe it still exists, a food processing company called Del Monte, right? Del Monte of the Monte is like a hill or a mountain. Del Monte. All right. We want to say Del. It just seems it's easy for us. It's comfortable for us. But the sound is E. It always is E. It will stay E and will never change from E, no matter what's the beginning of a word, the end of a word, the middle of a word, before an L, before an R. It's always E. And so it's del, del monte, en este caso, del supermercado. And looking again at supermercado, first consonant, su, not su, like the moon, supermercado. No, o. Don't let the shape of your mouth change. Not per. Per, e. Make it sound as e. It's not supermercado. The soften do, and it's o. It's not o. Got it? Got the idea? If you can learn to respect the sounds of the vowel sounds in Spanish, chopping them short and maintaining their purity, that is to say, don't change the shape of your mouth once you start pronouncing them, that will take you a long way towards sounding authentic in Spanish and being respected by the Spanish-speaking people with whom you speak. All right. Now, you've been reading, you've read 2.3 through 2.5, I believe, those three lessons dealing with the Richardson family. Let's see how much you've actually learned. I'm going to ask you some questions about that section of the story, and then we'll do a second activity when we'll turn it around, and I'll give the answer, and we'll see if you can provide the question using what? What did we just study in 2.1 and 2.2? Interrogatives. ¿Quién? ¿Cómo? ¿Por qué? ¿Cuándo? ¿O a qué hora? How, what, where, what? ¿Qué? How many? ¿Cuántos? Or cuánto, cuánta, how much? Etc. So we'll use those in a second. Let's just first try and respond to these questions. I'm not going to show you the questions. I want you to try to come up with the answers without actually seeing the text. So here we go. ¿Cómo se llama la familia? Dime, ¿se llama la familia Gallo? ¿Cómo se llama la familia? Gallo, Rodríguez, Cabrera. ¿Cómo se llama la familia? Díganme, frase completa, por favor. Sí, la familia se llama Richardson. ¿Dónde? ¿Dónde? ¿Verdad? ¿Dónde vive la familia? Notice when I ask that question that I take, when I use an interrogative with exception of quién, with exception of quién, which itself can serve as a subject. In all other cases with the interrogatives, I'm going to take the subject and the verb. The family lives. La familia vive. And I'm going to invert their order to form the question, right? So, ¿dónde vive la familia? ¿Dónde vive la familia? Sí, muy bien. La familia vive en Francia, es cierto. ¿Y es una familia mexicana? ¿O es una familia francesa? ¿Qué tipo, qué clase, cuál es la nacionalidad de esta familia? Sí, la familia es americana, o se puede decir que la familia es estadounidense, si quieren. Después, número 4. ¿Cómo se llama el papá de la familia? ¿Cómo se llama el padre? Sí, se llama John. ¿Dónde trabaja John? ¿Trabaja en una tienda? Sí, ¿verdad? John trabaja en una universidad. Es profesor, ¿verdad? ¿Y mamá? ¿Qué hace mamá? ¿Mamá trabaja también en la universidad? ¿Verdad? Sí, mamá no trabaja en la universidad. Mamá se queda en la casa y ella cuida al bebé y cuida a Miguel también, a los niños. Hace muchas cosas, es una mujer muy trabajadora. Prepara la comida, lava los trastes, lava la ropa también, ayuda a los niños con la tarea, etc. Hace muchas cosas. Limpia la casa, ¿verdad? Miguel, bueno, hay tres niños en la familia. Hay Katrina, la mayor, después Miguel, que tiene como 3 años, algo así, y el bebé, John Jr., yo creo que se llama. Entonces, ¿va Miguel a la escuela, sí o no? No, ¿verdad? Miguel no va a la escuela. Katrina va a la escuela. Miguel se queda en casa. ¿Qué aprende Katrina en la escuela? Sí. ¿Qué? ¿Qué aprende Katrina en casa? En la escuela, perdón. Muy bien, sí. Bueno, Katrina aprende muchas cosas, estudia muchas materias. Supongo que estudia historia y inglés, no sé. Los otros estudiantes en su escuela deben aprender inglés, no sé, ella también, quizá. Matemática, ciencia. Pero principalmente ella necesita aprender español, francés, ¿verdad? Pues ella aprende a hablar francés en su escuela. Y el bebé. ¿Qué hace el bebé durante el día? ¿Qué hace el bebé? ¿Qué hacen todos los bebés? Sí, el bebé llora, llora, el bebé come y el bebé duerme principalmente, y no hace más que eso. Entonces, bueno, mamá se levanta por la mañana y ella prepara la comida, ¿verdad? Se levanta la familia con mamá al mismo tiempo y ayuda a la familia, a mamá, a preparar la comida, ¿sí? Sí, ¿verdad? No, la familia no se levanta con mamá, la familia duerme mientras mamá prepara la comida. Bueno, mamá va en el baño. ¿Qué hace mamá en el baño cuando se levanta por la mañana? ¿Qué hace? Sí, actualmente, de veras, les digo la verdad, no recuerdo, pero probablemente, no sé si ella se ducha, ¿verdad? Yo no sé. Ella se ducha quizá, o a lo menos se lava, ella se lava, ella se cepilla los dientes quizá, ella se cepilla el pelo. No, notice by the way, ella se cepilla el pelo. Peinar, ella se peina. Peinar is used for like what men do with their shorter hair. Un pene is a comb. Un cepillo is a brush. So ella se cepilla el pelo. ¿Qué hace mamá en la cocina? Eso es fácil. ¿Qué hace mamá en la cocina? Now notice, you don't have to repeat mama, do you? We've been talking about mama. And so I really could have just said, ¿qué hace en la cocina? I didn't have to say, ¿qué hace mamá en la cocina? Because we know about whom we're talking. And in Spanish, as you know, you can drop the subject when it's understood about whom you're speaking. Entonces, ¿qué hace en la cocina? And now you would answer with, prepara la comida, porque prepara el desayuno. Quizá prepara café también para papá. Bueno, la familia está por fin la familia se levanta, la familia se viste, bajan las escaleras, entra en la cocina. ¿Por qué no come papá el desayuno? Papá no come el desayuno que mamá le prepara. Increíble, ¿verdad? ¿Por qué no come el desayuno? Hopefully you caught the fact that I said papá earlier in my question. And so when I said, ¿qué hace? ¿Por qué no come? You know that I'm referring to papá, right? ¿Por qué no come el desayuno? ¿Por qué no come el desayuno? Sí, papá lee el periódico. Está pensando en las noticias, no está pensando en su desayuno. Entonces, ¿y los niños? ¿Qué hacen los niños? ¿Comen los niños el desayuno? ¿Sí? ¿Verdad? No, los niños no comen el desayuno. ¿Por qué? ¿Qué hacen? Sí, Miguel juega con un tren. Probably making that sound, isn't he? No, it's more like I guess. Working on the CH sound. Entonces, Miguel juega con un tren y Katrina escucha música en la mesa, entonces no comen. ¿Cómo está mamá? ¿Está mamá feliz? ¿Cómo está mamá? Okay, now when you answer this question, don't say mamá. You can if you want to, but you don't have to. You can just say, está enojada. You could say, mamá está enojada, but why say mamá again? I've already told you about when we're talking. Está enojada. ¿Por qué? ¿Por qué está enojada? Sí, ¿verdad? Los niños no comen. Ella prepara el desayuno, los niños no comen y los niños no escuchan a mamá tampoco, porque mamá les dice, ¡hey, coman el desayuno! Y ellos no escuchan a mamá, ellos siguen jugando. Entonces no está muy feliz mamá. ¿A dónde va papá? Notice how I said a dónde. I didn't just say dónde. I said a dónde va. Why is that? Yeah, because we're talking about movement towards a destination of some kind. And so we don't just say where, we say to where in Spanish. ¿A dónde? ¿A dónde va papá? ¿A dónde va papá? Sí, papá va a la universidad, él va a su trabajo, él va yo no sé, él va a tomar el autobús inicialmente, no sé, autobús o el automóvil, el carro, para ir a su trabajo. Entonces, ok, ¿quién hace quién? ¿Quién? Miguel, Katrina, mamá, el bebé. ¿Quién hace la cama? ¿Quién tiende la cama? ¿Quién hace la cama? La cama de Katrina. Sí, Katrina no hace la cama. Es perezosa. Ella no tiene una buena disciplina en su vida, ¿verdad? Entonces ella no hace más de lo que quiere, hace lo que quiere. Entonces ella no quiere hacer la cama, ella no hace la cama. Mamá hace la cama. Eso no es correcto, chamacos. Bueno, ¿a dónde va Katrina después? Katrina va al supermercado con mamá, ¿sí? ¿Verdad? No, Katrina no va al supermercado, va a la escuela, ¿verdad? Sí, va a la escuela. Y entonces, ¿a dónde, después de la escuela, a dónde van mamá, Miguel y el bebé? ¿A dónde van inicialmente? Sí. ¿Verdad? Primero van, no, I didn't say ellos van, o mamá, Miguel y el bebé van. Not necessary. I'd already defined about whom I'm speaking in the question. You can just simply go to the verb directly. Van al parque. Inicialmente, primero, van al parque y después van al supermercado. ¿Qué hace Miguel en el parque? Sí, juega, por supuesto. ¿Qué hace mamá en el parque? Ajá. Lee un libro. ¿Qué hace el bebé en el parque? Muy bien, sí. El bebé duerme. Now let's turn the situation around. I'm going to continue with the same questions, but actually now I'm going to continue with the answers to these questions. And let's see how many of these questions you can form that would receive the answers that I give you. For example, okay, ellos están en el supermercado. En el supermercado, el bebé duerme. ¿Cuál es la pregunta? Okay? Let me do this with you in English first, just make sure you get the sense of this. Okay, in the supermarket, they're in the supermarket. What does the baby do? No, I just gave you the answer. In the supermarket, the baby sleeps. Okay? And so your question would be that you need to form is, what does the baby do? Let's try it in Spanish. En el supermercado, el bebé duerme. Form the question using this. Okay, you start out with que. Now think of what you're saying. You're saying the baby does. The baby does. So this is to do or to make. Hacer. So el bebé hace, but to make the question, you're going to reverse their order. So ¿qué hace el bebé? ¿Qué hace el bebé? El bebé duerme. Let's try the next one here. Mamá y Miguel caminan al supermercado. What would be an appropriate question to get that answer? Using an interrogative, of course. Who, how, or what, who, how, what, where, when, how many, how much, which. That's kind of a tough one, isn't it? Well, the question would be, they don't take the car, they don't take a bus, they walk. So the question would be how. How do Mama and Miguel go to the supermarket? So that would be, what's how? ¿Cómo? ¿Cómo? Now take mamá y Miguel, and then this verb, which is van, and turn it into a question. So, ¿cómo van Miguel y mamá al supermercado? No, esto es difícil, ¿verdad? Vamos a tratar otra vez. Así. Miguel, remember the point in the story where Mama says, Miguel, up to bed. And he does not want to go. He's mad about it, okay? So let's see if you can come up with the answer. Miguel no quiere acostarse. Miguel no quiere hacer una siesta. ¿Hacer una siesta? I just said that wrong. Miguel no quiere tomar una siesta. I'm thinking in French, I'm sorry. Miguel no quiere tomar una siesta. What's the question? Okay, you're going to want to use this interrogative here. It's quite a mess you've gotten us into this time, Ollie. All right. Yeah, that's por qué, isn't it? So what would the question be? Miguel doesn't want to take a nap. Why something? Yeah, either why is Miguel crying, if you know that verb in Spanish, if you remember it from the story, or otherwise, why is Miguel angry? That would be easy to form, all right? So how would you say either one of those? Right, take the interrogative first, ¿por qué? Then take the subject and the verb and reverse them. Está Miguel enojado. Or if you know it, ¿por qué llora Miguel? ¿Por qué está Miguel enojado? Otro ejemplo, dos o tres más. Ok, mamá y Miguel van a un restaurante para el almuerzo. ¿Cuál es la pregunta? Okay, hopefully you use this here, but with this concept here also. So, ¿a dónde van? In order to remember, you've done this, inverted. van Miguel y mamá? ¿A dónde van Miguel y mamá para el almuerzo? Van a un restaurante. Después, okay, Katrina. Okay, remember, in Katrina, I think. Oh, I don't think you've gotten this far yet. Let me back it up a little bit and find a place where you actually have gotten. Just to Miguel's nap. A Miguel le gustan las hamburguesas. A mamá no le gustan las hamburguesas. This is a tough one to finish with. Okay, Michael likes hamburgers. Mama doesn't like hamburgers. What's the question going to be? Yeah, in English it would be, who likes hamburgers? How would you say that? What's this word? ¿A quién le gustan las hamburguesas? ¿A quién le gustan las hamburguesas? A Miguel le gustan las hamburguesas. So that was a tougher activity at the end there than I thought it was going to be. It's probably asking a little too much at this point. Most important thing today has been, how do you pronounce the language? How do you respect the vowel sounds? And of course, remembering those three consonants, the r, and the r. Okay, with respect, especially the vowel sounds, you will sound as authentic as possible as you are speaking Spanish. Next time we get together, you will have finished, hopefully, all of the lessons dealing with the Richardson story, and we'll go back and talk about it a little bit more. Adios, hasta pronto.